Hey, everybody. It is what day we've been waiting for 4 long years. It is Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. And it's time to vote the asshole out of the White House. Oh, God. I've been waiting for this day for so long. I remember November 2016. And I was at our place, obviously everyone thought Hillary was going to win. I bought like these Hillary cupcakes from Cupcake Morale. It was ready to celebrate. And then hour by hour, and then things started looking depressing. And then when they called Pennsylvania for Trump, everyone just got deflated and I just left. I mean, it was probably one of the most depressing nights of my life. And then to endure, all these years of Trump and all his divisiveness, all his lies, his 20-something thousand lies that he's said during as a president. He's embarrassed his office. He wrote back a lot of things. He's wrote back, for example, LGBT rights. He's wrote back a lot of things in terms of the climate. He's decimated the EPA. He's decimated the State Department. Our foreign relations are at an all-time low. America's not respected anymore. And to top it off, 2020 has been the worst year of all of our lives because of the coronavirus. And obviously Trump has fucked that up royally. And, this whole campaign swing the last week, he keeps on saying, as we have the highest number of cases since the pandemic started last March, we have a record number of cases, like 100,000 cases yesterday, a record for a number of cases per day. And he's sitting there saying, oh, we've turned the corner. Fuck you. And his stupid minions, his stupid followers, drink the Kool-Aid and listen to the dear leader. This is over. I mean, I trust America. I trust that America is going to do the right thing. And I trust that we're going to boot his ass out of there and flush the shirt down the toilet. Okay, that's my soapbox for today. Let's get started. Election day. It's great here in the state of Washington. We're all mailing ballots, and everyone that I know has mailed in their ballots. I mailed mine in like 2 weeks ago, and one online and validated it has been counted. So my vote's counted. Hoo-hoo. It's going to rain today, but it doesn't matter. Everything's mail-in votes. Rain a few days through the week, and looks like it's going to be a nice weekend. But as you guys know, I am leaving to go to Palm Springs tomorrow. This is a trip planned 7 months ago. I was going to go down for Palm Springs Pride, which obviously got canceled. But the other big reason I'm going down is that as I'm doing a documentary. I went to film school this year, and so I'm making a documentary on Seattle's LGBTQ history. And so, a lot of gay guys have that were here in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. They've all retired down at Palm Springs. So I'm going to go down. I pretty much have about 7 to 10 people lined up to be interviewed. And I'm staying at my good friends, Doug Patterson and Jack Johnson's place. They are kind enough to host me since I've had a challenging year from an employment perspective. So I really appreciate their kindness and hospitality to open up their home for me to stay with them. So I am going tomorrow, leaving in Alaska, middle seat empty. I love Alaska's policy. So I'll be there tomorrow, Wednesday, the 4th through Tuesday, the 10th, coming back Tuesday, the 10th. So I'm taking a break from the daily broadcast. I might sneak one in if I'm bored, but I don't think I'm going to be bored. I'll sit out by the pool. They have a pool. Okay, they barnstormed everywhere yesterday. I think Trump had like 5 rallies. Biden and Harris were all over Pennsylvania. That's the really, really key state. And Biden did go ahead and go over to Ohio for Cleveland, because Ohio basically is a toss-up state right now. Both Trump and Biden are tied in Ohio. But we'll talk about the importance of Pennsylvania in a little bit. Here is what they're both telling their supporters. And here is our favorite PBS NewsHour.
The last minutes are ticking away in the presidential campaign. Nearly 100 million Americans have already voted. That's more than 2/3 of all the votes cast in 2016. Today offered a last chance to gin up tomorrow's turnout. White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor reports.
the campaign's final day, and both candidates rushing to rally supporters, each in his own way. President Trump mounted a blitz, hopping across 4 states that helped deliver him the presidency in 2016: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina.
Remember what I said 4 years ago? I said, I am your voice, and we will make America great again.
Former Vice President Joe Biden focused his attention first on Ohio.
My message is simple. The power to change the country is in your hands.
But today, Pennsylvania is the one key state that got the most attention.
We're going to be covering a lot of ground today. Joe's going to be here, Jill's going to be here, Doug's going to be here.
Biden's running mate, Senator Kamala Harris, rallied residents in Luzerne County. It was an effort to flip back an area that last cycle helped hand the state to President Trump.
I think you all know, and that's why we're all here and keep coming back, because we care about Pennsylvania and because Pennsylvania is going to determine the outcome of this election.
The president also visited the county for a rally. He repeated claims that the nation would soon be rounding the corner on the pandemic.
You know, we've done such a great job with this whole thing. You look at Europe, they're spiking. We'll quickly eradicate the virus and wipe out the China plague once and for all.
In fact, the COVID crisis appears to be getting more dire as infections surge past 9 million. The top U.S. infection disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, told the Washington Post over the weekend that the nation, quote, could not possibly be positioned more poorly as we head into the winter. The White House fired back in a statement to the Post, accusing Dr. Fauci of, quote, playing politics. Last night, in front of an enthusiastic crowd in Opelika, Florida, the president suggested Dr. Fauci may soon be fired.
Don't tell anybody, but let me wait till a little bit after the election, please. I appreciate the advice.
Today, Biden hammered the president's pandemic response at his own rally in Beaver County, Pennsylvania.
So he refuses to do the work to get this virus under control. He refused to do the work to get our schools and our small businesses the resources they needed to stay open. Firefighters, teachers, cops, a whole lot of hardworking folks.
Vice President Mike Pence, also in Pennsylvania, warned Biden's policies would be a drag on the economy.
Joe Biden's talking about shutting down the economy. Right at the time that we're beginning to get back on our feet as a country.
While the battle on the trail draws to a close, another fight over counting is brewing, with Pennsylvania also in the middle of it. The state's winner may not be decided by Tuesday night. In fact, some counties will not even begin counting ballots until the next day. Last night in North Carolina, President Trump criticized that delay, even though no state has ever reported complete final results on Election Day.
And I think it's terrible when we can't know the results of an election the night of the election in a modern-day age of computer.
He said he was already gearing up for a legal challenge.
We're going to go in the night of, as soon as that election's over, we're going in with our lawyers.
Today, Biden tried to assure people that their votes would be counted.
I don't care how much Donald Trump tries. There's nothing he's going to do to stop the people in this nation from voting. Folks, he hadn't figured it out. Presidents don't determine who gets to vote. Voters determine who's going to be the president.
Tensions on the ground are also building as the race wraps up. The FBI is investigating an incident in Texas last week where a convoy of Trump supporters in vehicles swarmed a Biden campaign bus on the highway. That led the campaign to cancel some events. President Trump later tweeted, quote, "These patriots did nothing wrong." But business owners and officials throughout the country are bracing for the possibility of post-election violence, boarding up windows and erecting fences.
Also today, a federal judge in Texas refused to toss out nearly 127,000 ballots cast at drive-through polling centers in Houston. Republican activists had argued the practice was illegal. The judge ruled they had no legal standing to sue. Now we turn to Yamiche and to our Lisa Desjardins, both of whom following all of this very closely. Yamiche, to you first. We just heard some of what the president is saying on the trail. What is the thrust, the main thrust of his closing argument?
On this day before election day, the president is focused on making a closing message that is focused on emotion more than policy. He's making the case that people should be more worried and more scared of the Black Lives Matter protests for racial justice and against police brutality than for the coronavirus pandemic that has killed more than 231,000 Americans and infected more than 9.3 million. He has said in rally after rally and state after state that we are rounding the corner. Of course, fake cases are spiking across the country. But the president says that he believes that this is the way forward, that he knows better than his infectious disease experts, including, of course, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who he's attacked in different speeches. The president is also making the case, and campaign advisors told me today, that they feel confident that they are going to win in critical states, including Florida, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, states that the president won in 2016, and that surprised the political atmosphere in Washington. One other thing, the president is also making the case that if we don't know who is elected president by midnight tomorrow night, that the election somehow is rigged. That, of course, is not true. There's no evidence that there's any sort of voter fraud. In fact, in several elections, we have not known who was the president at midnight, including in 2016, in 2000, in 1976, and even in 1968.
And Lisa, Joe Biden, what is his closing message, and what do we know about the game plan here at the end?
You know, Vice President Biden had an interesting closing message today, as he's still campaigning as we speak. But one thing he said in ending a speech earlier today was, "I will be the most pro-union president." He seems to be appealing to white working class voters that Democrats believe they lost in 2016, barnstorming across Pennsylvania. And the Biden campaign feels very good about this idea. They think they have many more paths to getting 270 electoral votes and the White House than does President Trump. They also like this, that the early vote count in many states seems to favor Democrats. If you look at registered voters who are submitting ballots in states that are announcing those numbers, they say they're ahead in Wisconsin, in Michigan, by amounts that mean that President Trump would have to win with 60% or more in order to carry those states. All signs of confidence for the Biden campaign. They also are saying something about those ideas of fear that Yamiche was talking about. The Biden campaign says the idea of election-related fear is in of itself suppression. And people need to be very aware that it may just be perception, not reality. They want people to go out and vote. They also say, by their math, there is no way that President Trump will be able to declare himself the winner by midnight on election night.
Two different stories coming out here. So, Yamiche, you've been following this president throughout his time in the White House. Tomorrow, last day of voting. What are you watching for?
Well, I'm watching for the same thing that the Trump campaign is watching for. They are bracing for both physical confrontations as well as legal confrontations. On the physical front, the president, as we noted in our tape, in our story, that the president is egging on in some ways his supporters who have physically been intimidating pro-Biden supporters. There are people on the campaign who say the president is okay to do that. I talked to someone today who was defending the president, saying these are people who did not break the law. It's fine to be able to walk up to people, to even drive up to people, to intimidate them with your vehicle. So we should watch that space for more of that. Another thing to note is the president is actually already has automatic donations going all the way until mid-December. He's doing that because he wants to have money in the bank for a prolonged legal fight. The RNC has already put aside $20 million, Judy, to fight legal battles that they think that will happen soon after election. The president is also promising to have several lawsuits already filed tomorrow. So the president is already saying that in states like Pennsylvania and others, in North Carolina possibly, that he's already getting his lawyers ready to file something as early as tomorrow.
And we know both campaigns are gearing up, if necessary, for legal fights. Finally, Lisa, you are also very closely watching Senate and House races. What are you specifically looking out for tomorrow night?
Quickly for the House, let's talk about that. Right now, speaking to Democrats and Republicans, no one is really talking about a likely path that Republicans have to taking back the House. In fact, there's more of a question of how many gains Democrats might make. Then let's look at the Senate. Let's look at where the Senate chamber is right now. Many people know 53 Republicans and then 47 Democrats and independents. Judy, I think that the situation is such that we have a dozen, perhaps, Senate races on the board. We may find out who will be president before we find out who controls the Senate.
All right, Lisa Desjardins, Yamiche Alcindor, you're both going to be busy tomorrow, as are we all. Thank you both.
A great report from our favorite PBS NewsHour. Trump just lies all the time. It's just shocking. Well, not shocking. I mean, we've had 4 years of this. But America will speak. And we're obviously focused on Pennsylvania. We'll talk about the Electoral College Map later, but this is why Philadelphia and suburbs are critical for Biden. In fact, again, yesterday, the last day of campaigning, Biden and Harris were basically in Pennsylvania. They covered the 5 major media markets, Philadelphia, the East, Pittsburgh in the West, and then the other major media markets. And this is why if Biden and Harris win Pennsylvania, because they're going to win Wisconsin and Michigan, it's game over. That's why.
And you've been hearing a lot about Pennsylvania. It could well be the keystone for any path to victory in this presidential election. On the ground in Philadelphia tonight is our own Daniel Bush. So hello, Daniel Bush. You've been watching the state of Pennsylvania, following all the goings on in both campaigns. How important is Philadelphia to the outcome?
Judy, Philadelphia is absolutely critical. 1 out of every 3 votes in the state will be cast in Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs. The Biden campaign knows that they need to do well here, both with black voters, with suburban voters. That's why we've seen the campaign spending precious time down the stretch here. Yesterday, today, Kamala Harris will be speaking just a little while from now, right behind me. And the Trump campaign, of course, is also devoting a lot of time to this state.
And we know, Dan, so much focus in recent days, weeks even, on the voting process in Pennsylvania and how they count ballots, what they're doing with the early voting. You've been talking to county officials about that. What are they telling you?
Well, Judy, they're as ready as they can be. They have a plan in place. I was inside one elections building today where they're receiving all these mail-in and absentee ballots. They can't start counting them, however, until 7 a.m. tomorrow. That will be a long process. The Biden campaign on a call today said they don't expect to have a clear picture of the results here in Pennsylvania until 1:30 a.m., so it will be a long night. And one other thing, that elections office was in York County, central Pennsylvania, a Republican stronghold, Judy, and there, the shy or silent Trump voter is real. There are a lot of voters I spoke with who said they're not showing up in the polls. They're very excited to vote for President Trump. So a lot of enthusiasm there for the president.
Certainly a place we are going to be watching so closely tomorrow night. And Dan, that's where you're going to be for us. Daniel Bush in Philadelphia, thank you so much.
So that's why Pennsylvania is so critical. One topic here I wanted to cover, because everyone on Facebook has said, "Oh my God, I'm so tense. I'm so tense." Everyone's so on edge because of the election. This is like the most important election of our lifetime. And then you throw in the, Trump egging on the militias, extremist groups about potential violence if, for example, if Trump loses. So here's a little report from CBS.
Welcome back to CBS This Morning. There are growing concerns about violence stemming from the results of the election, no matter who wins. An alleged right-wing plot to kidnap and kill Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer is just one example of what the FBI has labeled a growing domestic terror threat. Meanwhile, self-identified militia groups like the Michigan Home Guard are taking part in military-style training. They have reportedly denounced that plot, but they also say they're prepared for a fight in case of what they deem civil unrest. 60 in 6 correspondent Lori Siegel got rare access to the group.
When President Trump was asked at the first debate to condemn white supremacists and right-wing militia groups, his response?
Stand back and stand by.
Was interpreted by Adam Peisker as a message to groups like his.
So when he says stand by, what does he want? What is he planning on having us stand by for? In some of his speeches, he has mentioned somebody has to stop the riots if the government won't. So he's kind of sidelining the militia to do it, is what militias out there are thinking.
Raise your hand if you think that now, more than ever in your lifetime, America's on the brink of civil war.
Who says we aren't already in a civil war?
Right? That's already
started.
When you have cities that are burning, you got burning cities, you got Chaz centers set up where people can't go in and out.
That is
law enforcement can't control it. You have a civil war on your hands.
Siegel also met with members of an anti-government extremist group known as the Boogaloos. Officials have associated the group's ideology with multiple domestic terror plots.
You can hear the grind in there.
On a Saturday morning in mid-October, we were invited to a suburb of Lansing, Michigan, to spend some time with about 24 Boogaloos as they got together ahead of a rally.
We're just trying to be free again. The Constitution doesn't give the government power. It gives the power to the people.
The Boogaloos are an anti-government extremist group that has become increasingly associated with violence.
A firearm is a regular citizen's last hope to fight against tyranny.
Its members consist of mostly young men who wear Hawaiian shirts and trade cryptic memes that joke about killing members of the federal government and hint at an impending second civil war.
I mean, we're in a room with firearms. Is that part of the plan?
I'm not going to bring a fork to a gunfight. If you trust the police to carry guns and law enforcement to carry guns and protect you, you should feel just as safe with guys in Hawaiian shirts around.
There comes a point when voting and you're not being listened to isn't enough.
And Lori Siegel joins us now. Lori, good morning. Amazing bit of reporting here. Militias have a long history in America, and yet interest in them seems to be increasing through the pandemic. Why is that?
Yeah, and I think it's important to pay attention to that. I think there's so much happening now that's creating almost a perfect storm. When we were actually there and talking to folks, people are worried about their jobs. They're losing their jobs. They want a sense of belonging. They told us they felt like their rights were under attack. They felt the government shut down and when they're losing their jobs, and they're trying to come together and create some sense of belonging. And they said, speaking to Adam, who you heard from, he said that more and more people want to join and believe that they're a part of something. So I think you're only going to see this increase, which is pretty alarming.
Gun ownership is protected in America, but if you get a gun and your friends get a gun, you put on uniforms and you train, is there a legal line there that you cross? At what point is a militia's status in question?
It's a super interesting question, because when we were out there, I was asking, is this legal? And we spoke to experts who say, no, this is not legal. It's illegal for private militias to train or engage in paramilitary activity if their intent is to use it against the state or act on authority of police. Now, the problem is if you have these groups going in and acting on behalf of law enforcement unauthorized. Speaking to some of these groups, they're talking about showing up armed to protest. I would challenge them and say, what gives you the authority to pull the trigger? And I think that's where some of this danger lies, where the Michigan Home Guard said they don't want to show up to protest unless they're called upon. You have to look. They actually did show up to protect a barbershop from being shut down at one point. They showed up armed. So, there is kind of, we're all kind of on pins and needles waiting to see what happens. The Boogaloo Boys are very different than the Michigan Home Guard. All these groups are different, but they do show up armed to protests. And you run the risk of them where there's all this tension deciding to do something. And more you have these one-offs of people associated with violence with this ideology.
Yeah, and if they're standing by, the question becomes standing by for what? We will be watching on Election Day and after. Lori Siegel, thank you very much. You can watch her report on the Michigan Home Guard on the 60 Minutes YouTube channel right now. It is terrific. I recommend you do so. Her report on the Boogaloos will be out Monday.
Well, that was scary. Oh my God, these armed militia groups. That does concern me. I'm not so concerned with local protest violence, but I'm concerned of militia groups that come from outside of, for example, Seattle, and come into Seattle to create problems. That's what I'm concerned about. So we're gonna hunker down today, I guess, as we watch the election tonight. This is always a very good indication of how the current president is viewed. There's always a poll of, do you believe the country is going in the right direction or the wrong direction, on the wrong track? And pretty much, obviously, 2020 has been pretty much, as you see the spike, up to almost over 70%. Said the country is on the wrong track. When the country is on the wrong track, the current president is not seen very well. Okay, that's not good. In fact, right now, even though it improved over the last month or two, I don't know why, But right now, 61% of people believe that the country is on the wrong track, and only 31% of people believe it's on the right, it's going in the right direction. That is a huge indicator. So that's why people are going to vote the right way today. So I just wanted to share with that little particular kind of a pulse of America direction of the country. Okay, I know this is my map. This is my final map. Okay, this is my final map. This is my prediction. We'll come back later to see how accurate I was. I'm a little aggressive. I will admit it. I'm a little aggressive. I gave Texas to Biden, and I don't know if that's really going to happen, but that's my stretch. Okay, so if he loses Texas, he loses Texas. But again, as I said on yesterday's broadcast, the key is the blue wall, the Midwest blue wall. It is Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And again, when you watch tonight, and if they call Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin for Biden and Harris, it's done. That's done. That's a guaranteed 207 Electoral College votes. Trump can go ahead and take all the other swing states. You can take Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas, and Arizona, and it won't matter because he can't get 270. If, however, as I talked last night, if for some reason, I don't think this happened, if for some reason Trump gets Pennsylvania, Biden Harris still has 6 options. So let's say, for example, Trump gets Pennsylvania. Well, guess what? Biden Harris win Ohio. They win. Or they get North Carolina. They win. Or they get Georgia. They win. Or they get Florida. They win. Or they get Texas. They win. Or they get Arizona. They win. So there are many paths for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to win tonight, okay? They don't need Pennsylvania. But again, if they get Pennsylvania, it's basically a done deal. But if they don't, they have 6 other states they can win. And again, they're winning in Pennsylvania by about 7. Ohio's a toss-up. North Carolina, they're winning by about 2 or 3 percentage points. Georgia, they're winning by about 1 or 2%. Florida, they're winning by, the polls are all over the map. They're winning by probably about 4 to 6 to 7 percentage points. Texas is pretty much a tie. Arizona, Biden, Harris are leading by about 2 or 3 points. So I like our chances tonight. So hopefully that'll give you a sense of calmness when you watch the election results tonight. Okay, it's going to be fun. We're going to finish today's election daily broadcast with a couple 3 great ads. Here's one, Lincoln Project ad, America the Beautiful. I love this one.
Shine, see, you know, I wish I had somebody to help me sing this. America, I love you, America. You see, my God, he done shed his grace on thee. And you ought to love him for it, because he crowned my good. He told me he would. Every brotherhood from sea to shine and see. Oh Lord, I thank you, Lord.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Oh, that was great. I love the fact they showed Seattle. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do 2 ads back to back. I'm not going to interject between. We have one, Hometown by Bruce Springsteen for the Biden campaign. And I think the best campaign ad for Biden is called Biden's Moment. So we're going to go to both of those.
Scranton, Pennsylvania. Here, success isn't handed down. It's forged with sweat, grit, and determination. This is his hometown. In Scranton, good times aren't promised. But here and in towns across America, times are harder than they ought to be. Lives on pause, dreams on hold, futures in doubt. He's running to change that, to give working people the shot they deserve, an honest living for honest work, and a little peace of mind at the end of the day. Because this place stays with him. These streets are part of him. This is more than where he's from. It's who he's for.
Your hometown. This is your hometown.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
America is hurting. There's a sickness in the land, more than just a virus that could have been controlled long ago. Our faith is being tested. Our faith in each other, in the goodness of America. This is Joe Biden's moment. What his life prepared him for. Not an easy life, but being an American isn't about what's easy. It's about never giving up. He came from a family on hard times, overcame a crushing disability, endured the worst loss a man can imagine, and he never gave up. Joe Biden kept the faith that love is stronger than hate, that kindness is stronger than anger.
As I look across America today, hope seems elusive.
Today, it's not easy in America. Maybe it's destiny.
My answer is this.
Maybe a higher power.
You and I are part of a covenant.
But once again, the right leader is here to bring us together.
If we do our part.
This is Joe Biden's moment.
If we stand together.
This is our moment.
Then the divisions of our time will give way.
This is America.
To the dreams of a brighter, better future. We can be what we are at our best. The United States of America.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
A great closing ad for Election Day. I just want everyone to know the Constitution of the United States is on the line today. I truly believe, I trust my fellow Americans that we will make the right choice. Here's to taking back America. Here's to taking back, moving forward with rights for LGBT people, moving forward rights for minorities, including African Americans, Latinos, and our Muslim brothers and sisters. Here's to moving forward to climate change and reinstituting the EPA. Here's to reestablishing our relations with our allies around the world. This is on the line. America, I trust you. Okay, enjoy tonight. Text me if you need some kind of support. Have a good one. Take care.